My friends, welcome back to the Hippie Moms podcast. I am so excited to have Spenser Brassard here today. Thank you, Spenser, for joining us.
Well, I love you already, so I
I
think
know.
this is going to be great. We've been talking for about 2 minutes before, and I'm like, okay, we're best friends. Awesome,
Yeah,
let's do this.
yeah. It's really beautiful how just this spirit, God, the universe just brings
hmm
people together that we can co-create in a way that supports the community. This podcast will live on forever. And so I'm just so grateful no matter where you are, who you are, or what time you're listening to, like just know that you're here for a specific reason. Like there's something here for you. So I can't wait to get into it. We have so much to cover.
Yeah,
I, I'd love for you to share your journey. Like fill us in. Who are you? What got you to where you are today?
yeah. Well, I had a really big catalytic moment in my life when I wanted to become a mom more than anything in the world. I come from a long lineage of stay-at-home moms. Like I was raised to believe that being a mom is the most important thing in the world, the most important thing you can do with your body. And so, of course, when I was young, I was like, all I want to do is be a mom. Oh my gosh. And so the catalytic event is when it wasn't happening for me. It was, couple months, okay, well, we'll give it a try. We'll go a little bit more. And then a few months, and then a year hits. And that's when, the medical system teaches you, okay, panic because this is not good. Let's do testing. Let's figure this out. Let's learn why. For us, it was unexplained infertility. And intuitively, I know that it was an opportunity for me to dive a little bit deeper into my spirit, into my being, and get very intentional in the way I wanted to live my life, the way I wanted to design my life, because the stereotypical approach to conception, it just wasn't working for me. We had tried to conceive for a few years and we had done everything. We had done the diets. We had done, oh my gosh, Becky, we had done acupuncture. We had done Reiki, tarot card readings. And then eventually we went to do treatment. We did IVF and that didn't work. I had a miscarriage and it was just, the journey at first it was about adding and doing everything as Western medicine teaches us to do more, perform, do better, perfect, and then it will happen. And it ended up being a journey of letting go, of subtracting, of doing less and coming back to myself. And it was a challenge because this approach to life is very counterintuitive in our culture, right? It's very different from what quote unquote most people do. It required an acceptance of being different and not shaming myself for that, in actually allowing a different journey than the conventional approach. And eventually, 8 years later, the fertility journey being the worst and the best thing that ever happened to me, we got pregnant naturally with my son Beck, who's 4. And then again, a couple years later on our first try with my now 1.5-year-old Jack. So it was quite the journey, but it was quite the remembering of who I am and what I came here to do and what I now want to teach in my new book, Fertile Ground.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. What I love so much about this conversation is I really do believe as a community and as women too, there's so much unlearning that
Oh,
goes on, not only if we want to become a mother, but we want to become anything. We're being called to take different paths, to slow down, to pause, because it's like we've been running on this hamster wheel and we're not getting anywhere. And what it sounds like to me is you got off. You got off the
mhm.
hamster wheel. And so what were those things that you really started to click in when you got pregnant naturally, which is so incredible. It's so incredible. You're doing all the things, all the Western things, and then you take a
Yeah.
completely different approach. Like, walk us through that. What were those steps or that intuitive path that led you to conceive naturally, which is so amazing.
It is wild. You know what? Each step, we're I'm here to talk about my book, Fertile Ground, and each step is each chapter in the book, right? When I went to go write the book, I was like, Kate, what are all the steps it took to disintegrate what I thought this was about in order for it to become what I want it or to become what it wants to be? And I think you said it beautifully is I got off the hamster wheel and I decided was no longer about looking outside of me and doing more and forcing and perfecting and performing and pleasing. And I eventually had gotten to the point through working with and finding a community of women who were very like-minded, understood, and was it stopped being, I think, like, tell me if I'm wrong, but when you realize that conventional approach isn't working, at first it is very lonely. Like and I just want to offer, if anyone is feeling that to this on this podcast right now, if you're feeling really lonely because the way everyone else is doing it isn't working, and whatever it is that you're trying to do, you're not alone in that feeling. Like, it is very common for us to feel that. And I just want to offer you compassion and grace for that. But it is a pivotal moment in that stillness, in that emptiness, in that loneliness, where we come back to ourselves and we relearn, or maybe learn for the first time ever, trust ourselves, to trust those little tiny whispers that are saying, oof, what if you could create this baby from a place of pleasure? What if it wasn't about restrictions and rules and sacrificing your joy in order to be, quote unquote, more deserving of this baby? What if you were actually teaching your baby right now, the spirit of your baby, what it could be like for them when they come back into this life? Right? And it was just like this, oof, okay, so I'm actually somewhat of a mother now in a really cool, spiritual, fascinating way. And I decided choose a life in which I was actually mothering not only myself, but my baby now. I was showing them, what is it like to be alive? Okay, this is what we do. This is how we have fun. This is how we're sad. And it's not wrong being sad. So it was a really beautiful exploration of what it means to be a human and not shaming myself for that. Because when you're on the fertility journey and motherhood in general, there can be a lot of perfectionism. How should I do it? As opposed to, how do I want to? What am I being pulled towards? What am I being called to do here?
Yeah.
Right? And so it was this just layers of slowing down, like you said, enough to listen, and then actually trusting the whispers that I was getting, either in meditation or journaling. But I'd say a really great place to start with that is knowing that there is more than one way to what it is that you want. More than one way to the baby, more than one way to a thriving journey with your children, and can 100% be different from how everyone else is doing it.
That feels so good.
Right? In your body, it feels good, right? And that's the thing, is it's like, ooh, I'm going to look for those feelings of goodness in my body.
Yes, yes. And it's interesting because when we're on that journey and we're going kind of that route of you got to do this and you got to test this and it's like it's so robotic in a way, and it just creates so much stress, and it's hard to conceive when we are in a stressed out state, right? I'd love to talk around the nervous system and how that is connected to
Yeah.
fertility, because I've always thought, if we're stressed out, the baby's gonna be like, I'm not coming, not stressed out body.
Well, I think that, stress is inevitable. I don't ever want to shame stress. And there's a difference, and I talk about this in my book, Fertile Ground. There's a difference between acute stress and chronic stress. Acute stress, that just happens. That's life, right? And we don't want to shame ourselves for having that experience come in and out, and consciously choosing how we respond to those scenarios. But chronic stress, I believe, comes when we, like you said, are living from the neck up. We are analyzing everything. We are only living in logic. We are trying to solve something with just the brain. And we are not connecting with the intelligence that is within our bodies. We aren't following that lightness, that relief, those options that actually feel good, because we're so wrapped up in the thoughts and the stories of our brain, of our minds. And this isn't our fault. This is how we've been conditioned to move forward in our lives, right? There's no class in school where it's like, okay, this is how you connect with your body.
So true. We need
Right?
those classes.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
because that is just mental and physical health, learning how to connect your mind with your body. And so when we talk about the nervous system, I believe that so many of the people who are being kind of shoved very gently by some bigger force to take a different path, many of us have highly sensitive nervous systems. And that actually has gotten such a big term at this day and age that it's actually called HSP. And it just means that we are more sensitive, we are more attuned to people, to things around us. We just feel things much more deeply than other people. And it is a learned skill to respond to that nervous system with, like we said, compassion and grace, and then consciously choosing how we respond to the sensations that come up within us. So let's say, for example, something happens, you got your period, right? You're not pregnant this month. And how we are taught to respond to this experience, which brings a lot of body sensations, right? Your heart falls into your stomach. You feel gutted. You have a frog in your throat. You feel fully responsible as to why this hasn't happened. Now you have to go tell your partner and feel like you're letting them down all over again. It's a really big sensation of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Mm. And so in our culture, how do we respond to that? Is we just listen to these tyrant thoughts that are telling us that it's all on us, it's our responsibility, and we are not connecting with the emotions inside of our body that just want to be witnessed without judgment. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you're feeling like you failed. Oh, that must be so tough. Oh, what does that feel like in your body? What's the physical sensation and where is it located? Is it in your chest? Is it in your stomach? Is it in your womb space? Where is it? And it's just taking this time to actually feel what this experience is like instead of numbing out, right? Running away from it and all the ways in which we've been taught. And as fast as possible, shifting into problem solving mode from our brains, analyzing everything, and worst of all, blaming ourselves.
Yes.
Right? So a conscious response, and this is what I teach inside of my book, Fertile Ground, is being with yourself in those tender moments, mothering yourself, like in those moments when your child didn't get the grade they wanted, or they came back from that soccer game and they just weren't feeling it. How do you choose to respond to them in those moments? With shame and blame, or with compassion and understanding and letting them feel how they feel? Also, after that layer of validation and self-compassion, I feel like that validation is that kind of sweet spot for a shift in thinking that ultimately supports that future that you want. It's like all these emotions want is just a seat at the table. And like, we just need to give them a seat at the table. Not forever. They'll leave eventually. And again, that's one of the resistant thoughts that we think is if I feel it, it'll stay forever. And it's impossible for that to happen, right? So it's in those really tender moments that I believe are our biggest opportunities for not only growth, but change as we move through this, the way we've been taught to do things. And so ultimately, you can imagine what happens to the nervous system when we give our emotions the floor. We say you're allowed to be here and I don't judge you. Like just have your moment and breathe, slow down, lay in your bed, play some music, do whatever you need to do. You know, cuddle with your partner, be with those tender, tender moments. Don't run away from them. And so I think that's what our nervous systems at this day and age are craving most to regulate is not just slowing down so that you can create this space to actually feel and process what it is that's in front of you right now and to meet yourself where you're at.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's so interesting. You know, we're humans, we have human emotions, yet we're taught to not feel human emotions. And it's just so strange when you really look at it. Like it's like we're here, we have these emotions, yet we're always trying to cover them up, disassociate, numb.
Exactly.
But that is, I believe, the reason I think so many of us suffer so much is because
For sure.
we're just trying to hold it all together all the time, and especially as moms. You know, and then your
Mm-hmm.
child has a big reaction,
Mm-hmm.
your husband has a big, and it's like it's just
Yeah.
much. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that it really is giving yourself permission to sit. And one thing I've noticed, and I'm curious if you have too, and this is just another way to put it, when I'm in those moments and I'm feeling, what I realize it's simply energy in the body that's just ready to be expressed. There's nothing scary about it, actually. But what are
Mhm.
we so afraid of? And I think until we're able to really, like you said, mother ourselves, we must become that enlightened parent for ourselves because most
Mhm.
have that growing up.
Yeah, I think what we're afraid of is the discomfort because at worst, what an emotion is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that is, if that feeling is the price we need to pay, move it through us and to create a new neural pathway by allowing it to be shifted. I mean, it's like a growing pain, right? It's like, oh, that hurts. Like we all remember that feeling when we were teenagers and we'd have that spasm and we'd go, oh my God, that's like the worst pain ever. And that is what I would, compare it to is that feeling it's an intense sensation and it's achy. And in our culture, we truly have been taught to run away from it. But if we can allow and realize at worst what this is uncomfortable, I think that it gives it a chance to move through. And it's cool because emotion is E/dash motion, right? It's energy in motion. That's what it is. But my God, we have to slow down. We
Yeah.
can't feel when we're busy and doing and going and going. And
Well, and I
it's,
think that that's a defense mechanism for many of us is
yes.
to kind of keep busy so we don't have time and space for ourselves. But whether we want to get pregnant or we want to create anything in our lives or shift change, you really do have to take pause and be willing to
Mhm.
sit in this time and space. And really what I really feel you're speaking of is it's really bringing in this like divine feminine energy. You know, we've been so in this like toxic masculinity, not we love masculinity. We love the masculine, but it's been such an imbalance in our world. And the more conversations I have, the more I feel this divine feminine really moving through us. It's slowed down. Like we don't have to fight. We don't have to keep running on this hamster wheel going nowhere. Like everything is unfolding for us. You know, we don't
Mhm.
make our heart beat. We don't breathe our lungs
Mhm.
done for us. Yet
Mhm.
we think we are in control of everything. And in that belief, we're on this like nonstop wheel. And so I really like sense this is the message is like, how can we sit back, pause, breathe, and allow and surrender? And you talk about that surrendering. Like, let's move into that. Like, what does
I'd
that
love
mean?
to. Yeah. Oh my God, that is such a hot topic, isn't it? It's like, what the heck
Yeah.
does surrender mean? Everyone knows, like, especially when you're trying to conceive, it's like, I just want to surrender. But how?
How do I do that? Yeah.
And I will say in my book, it really teaches you the progression of it, which is really beautiful because one of the reviews I've gotten from the book is it's an experience. From the minute you open up, it takes you on a journey. And I think that that is something that we're yearning for is that like is to a felt experience, an embodied experience. And surrender to me, and I think you said this, but it's one of the last chapters in the book because I don't think that I think that is a lot of resistance we have to it at first. But surrender is being the vessel. Surrender is realizing it's not all on me to make this happen. And in fact, there is a spark of light that happens when the sperm and the egg meet and then like I don't make eyeballs. I don't make an arm. It just happens. How? And that's what we're surrendering to. But we
Mm.
have to build trust in something bigger. And that's what I believe the journey is for, is it's to build trust in surrendering. And so for me, surrendering is 1,000 tiny moments, I call it. It's these moments that we get throughout the day where we have a feeling and let's say we have a big emotion and we surrender to it and we let it in. Or plans change and we have to pivot and do something else and we surrender to that and we trust that. Or I have something planned, but I am freaking exhausted and I surrender to that. I cancel the plans and I listen to my body instead. So it's 1,000 of these tiny moments where we trust ourselves enough times to have ample evidence that I know what I need and I can let go. And I can actually give myself everything that I'm yearning for before this baby even arrives.
Mm.
Right? That comfort, that relief, that care that I'm withholding from myself until it happens. You don't have to.
Mm.
And so we get to surrender all the time. We get to say yes to life all the time.
Mm.
And I think it starts by first surrendering to ourselves,
Yeah.
by listening to what we need and not making ourselves wrong for that, even if it goes against culture, even if it goes against being perfect and being productive and performing and people pleasing,
Yes.
because that's where we recharge. That's where we rejuvenate. That's where we regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
And physiologically, I mean, oh my God, the body loves that. When you're listening to the body and you're not overriding your nervous system with more to-dos and more tasks, you're actually sitting in rest and you're actually allowing yourself to be witnessed by you without judgment. I mean, physiologically, you can imagine the effect that that would have on the body.
Oh my gosh. And your relationships
Mm,
ripple, it ripples into your life when we can hold that space for ourselves,
exactly.
and you said it many times, as women, we've been shown to people please. We've been shown that it's our responsibility to take care of everyone, and we just put ourselves at the very bottom of the list. And that will never work.
No, it won't.
Mm-mm.
It won't, because you'll end up not being the mother that you really want to be.
Right.
Because when I have my moments to myself, which I need, it's just something, I have a highly sensitive nervous system, and so I need time to come back
Mm.
because our culture is a lot for me. I'm very empathic. I feed off of a lot. And so I've learned, like a Liz Gilbert, right? She wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and I went and saw her last year. She's like, I am high maintenance, not in the sense of I need like, expensive stuff and I need like the spa. I'm high maintenance, meaning like I need a lot of care
Mhm.
because I'm a sensitive individual. And so it's not about changing who we are, but learning how to respond to who we are with that
Mhm.
kind of tenderness. And one thing you said, like how it changes the relationships and the divine feminine, like the matriarchs that we hold tremendous power within our family unit before we even have children. And I believe it is our responsibility to bring in that divine feminine, that energy of, hey, honey, we can sit and we can feel, and I love you no matter where you're at. And I think I just think that that's kind of what we came here to do. And this doesn't come with effort. This isn't more work for us. It's actually our really natural, place that we thrive from. And I believe this begins before we have children. It begins the minute we are in a relationship with our partner. And I think that's really, really important because for me, that gave me this kind of sense of leadership, which I really love. Like, I love knowing that I came here to lead, not follow.
Mhm.
And that really inspires me to know that. It really makes me feel like purposeful. I think everyone wants to feel that way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just hearing the words, I'm like, yes. I mean, it's a powerful place to be. And I think that's what so many of us we can realize when we step into that
Mm.
divine feminine, to that, pausing, taking it slow, nurturing ourselves. It's almost like it harmonizes us.
It harmonizes everything.
Everything. We harmonize ourselves, it ripples and it harmonizes our children.
Exactly.
I mean, we really have so much power. And I mean, it's easy to see when we are not in alignment. And that is the simple when we're exploding, like yelling at our kids, telling them not to yell, or which is it's just inauthentic. But it's not
Mhm.
our fault. That's how we were parented. So
Mhm.
that's what I think when we become mothers is we have so many opportunities to heal. We have so many opportunities to see ourselves. And a lot of times that's the mom guilt, the shame, but it actually is so beautiful because if we can hold ourselves and hold compassion for this journey and a deepening understanding that we're all in our becoming. There's nowhere to go. I think that's another
Mm.
thing. It's like you said earlier, once I get to here,
I
then
know.
we're never getting anywhere. We're always here right now.
Exactly. You know, speaking for women who are trying to conceive, like it truly, like I honestly think that that space we hold as mothers, it begins before having that baby. And like, what an opportunity to learn that before.
Yes, I mean, absolutely, absolutely. It really, I mean, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I kind of went into being a mom very unconscious. I was just like, oh, once I have kids, they're going to be those perfect kids. My hypothetical kids are, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. It really took me for a spin. And it wasn't until I really came into the darkness of motherhood that I was like,
Mm.
I need to do something different because this is not working. Maybe my parents did this, but this is not working for me. And so wherever we are on the journey, oh yes, how beautiful to hold this space for ourselves before we get pregnant, but at any time. It's
Mm.
so important that we can just give ourselves so much grace and compassion because being a mother it's unlike anything else in the whole world.
It really is. I mean, I've never had the capacity to hold two feelings at once. And you know, I think that's what every mom can agree on. It's like, okay, I can't wait for bedtime. And then they go to bed and you're like, why do I miss them so much? It's just these conflicting feelings and sensations and emotions. And I think that if we're able to witness that without judgment, everything would flow just a little bit easier every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, Spencer. So tell us, so will you show us your book for those that are on YouTube? Can you show us the
Yes.
book?
Oh
Oh,
my
it's
God. Yes.
so
She's
beautiful.
beautiful.
It's
Isn't
called
she gorgeous?
Oh, she's gorgeous. Fertile Ground, a mind-body approach to getting pregnant without it taking over your life. Oh,
Yeah. It's so, so exciting. Actually, the cover, the graphic designer, she designed one of Stephen King's books. So
you
I'm
did
like, this
such a
is
great
quite
job.
a drastic change in genre.
She's so
Yeah.
versatile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So, kind of to wrap it up, if you were to kind of give these women that are trying to get pregnant, that are struggling, like what would your a few words of wisdom be? Obviously, get your book.
Yes. Buy my book.
Yeah, buy the
Buy
book,
my
read the book.
book. Oh gosh, to wrap it up in one sentence. Okay, perfect. You know, it's hard to wrap up words of wisdom in just one sentence. So I'm just going to meet myself where I'm at and how I'm feeling today and offer you what's kind of present in my life, which we've already talked about. But if the way you've been doing it isn't working and it's working for like everyone else you know but you, there's nothing wrong with you. Like there's nothing wrong with you. Actually, the only thing that's wrong with you is that you believe something is wrong with you. And choosing and exploring and trusting another approach to your baby will be the best decision that you've ever made.
Mhm.
Because don't think we're only yearning for a baby.
Yeah.
I think we're yearning for that connection to self, that feeling of relief of, oh, I can let go and I can trust.
Mhm.
And that can happen very quick. That can happen the minute you decide that you're safe to do it differently.
Mhm.
And so if the way you've been doing it isn't working, it's not because something's wrong with you. It's because that way isn't right for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? Like just that, I just want to offer them that reassurance.
Beautiful. That's wisdom for so many,
Yeah,
lives. I mean, whether you're having a child, whether you're in a relationship that
so
is,
true.
you know, or a job, or, it's just really, it's tuning back into us. Because nothing, even when we have the child, which is obviously a beautiful journey, we expect to feel a certain way. But let me tell you, you're going to be happy, but you're also going to have a whole other host of emotions. And it's not like anywhere what we get to. It's like, can we cultivate that which we are seeking within ourselves in this moment?
It's so true. I always say to my girls, like, you think all that uncertainty and all of that, like you're just not going to be vulnerable. Like you think that's going to be gone when you get pregnant.
Yeah.
No, it actually goes up,
Yeah.
right? It actually increases. Motherhood is a journey of vulnerability. You are literally wearing your heart on your sleeve now for the rest of your life.
Oh,
And so it's not about changing those emotions or wishing they're not there, but learning how to cope with them, learning how to use them as actually an opportunity to come back to yourself, to be that foundation, that fertile ground for your baby and for your family. And that can be begin before you get pregnant. And in fact, I encourage it.
yeah. I do too. I do too. I think that's
Mhm.
absolutely beautiful. Oh my gosh, Spencer, what a great conversation.
Yes, I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it.
I know I did too. Well, you're such a gift. Thank you so much for
Oh, so are
bringing
you.
your gift to the world and just to share your story and to give,
Mm.
future moms and mothers a new perspective. I almost feel
Mhm.
you don't even need to be trying to get pregnant to read your book. Like
I
there's
know. That's what everyone's.
I really feel there's more. I think it's really the motherhood journey, the surrender,
Mm.
the embodiment of who we are, and really stepping into our power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know those terms can sound like somewhat generic, but I think what these podcasts that you're hosting, like that actually teaches us what it means to be in
Mm.
your power, what it means to meet yourself where you're at, right? And I think that's probably really important for people to know.
Yeah, we have to ground it somehow, somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. We have to bring
Yeah,
it down to life.
got to bring it down. And really, it's your own experience, what that means for you. And so
Yes.
it's just playing with these ideas, taking what feels good, leaving what doesn't. So, okay, so we're going to have the link for your book, and then we'll have you're on Instagram. Where else can our viewers and listeners find you?
Yeah, so I have a Fertile Ground podcast as well. And so, yeah, so I do weekly, bi-weekly, depends on my energy level, but
Sure.
I do a couple releases every month. And yeah, the Fertile Ground podcast actually started before I got pregnant,
That's amazing. Wow.
right? I was like, I need to do, like, I'm not suffering anymore. More people need to know how to do this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they can find me there on Instagram at Spenser Brassard. And then I have a group coaching program. That's the only way people can work with me right now. And it's called Fertility Mind Body Mastery. And you would appreciate this. It's a group because community, I
Every-
agree. It's everything. It is like the minute you are a part of a community, you don't need to say a thing and you are healing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much power in a collective. And when you bring like-minded people together that have a vision, and yeah, it's powerful for sure.
It's so underestimated
Yeah.
how powerful it is.
And we're all
Absolutely.
yearning for that community and
Oh,
that
so
connection,
true.
especially, well, men are too, women are too, mothers are. It really is so important. So I'm going to make sure we have all your goodies, all the links for our listeners and our show notes. And Spencer, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute joy. I could talk with you all day.
Oh my, I know. I'm kind of sad that it's ending. Let's just plan on, we'll regroup again. We'd love to have you back on
Totally.
and we'll
Beautiful. I love that.
sounds good. All right. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. And we'll catch you on the next Hippie Moms podcast. Bye.